Aloha and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about frameworks. And I warn you in advance, this is going to be a very acronym heavy section. So let's start off with a talk about framework organization. So what is a framework? So a framework is a collection of guidelines, best practices, or policies that a third party develops for another organization to use. So we've got a lot of different organizations here, and here's where the alphabet soup starts. So we've got the Center for Internet Security, CIS. That's a nonprofit that's focused on developing best practices and frameworks for cybersecurity or cyber threat protection. You've got NIST. You'll hear a lot about NIST. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. That's a U.S. Department of Commerce agency that's focused on advancing the measurement science standards and technology for U.S. information systems. So when you're thinking about federal systems, think NIST. NIST, particularly defense contractors, they have to comply with a lot of NIST regulations out there. Also, you have the ISO, the International Organization of for Standardization. Notice it's, the words are IOS, but I've heard it also referred to as the International Standards Organization. Either way, I wouldn't worry about that. Just know it's the ISO. Their standards development cohort for the standards bodies of member countries. So when I was working in Japan for a long time, we would always try to be compliant with certain ISO standards that were out there. And they would they've got standards for just about everything. One other framework organization is IEC, the International Electrotechnical Commission, and that's an international electrical and electronic technology or electrotechnology standards development organization. We've got AICPA, which is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. They're a nonprofit organization of certified public accountants, what we know as CPAs, who develop resources to protect public interest. And we also have the Cloud Security Alliance, the CSA, and that's an organization that's focused on developing cloud computing environment best practices. So remember that a framework is not a regulation, but a framework may be created in response by a regulation for compliance purposes. So if you have to be compliant, you can use one of these frameworks. People that are required to be NIST compliant or compliant to a certain cybersecurity standard can use different NIST ones to satisfy that. These organizations are creating these frameworks, these security frameworks, and we're going to take a look at some of these frameworks as well. So one is the CIS Critical Security Controls, and that's a security in CSC. So it's the CIS CSC, and that's a security framework that consists of recommended security controls organized in 18 different areas. Then we've got NIST Risk Management Framework, the NIST RMF, and that's a security framework required by a public sector organization to implement a systematic process of addressing the risk facing an organization. This is known as risk management. You'll hear a lot about risk management in cybersecurity. It's, how do we handle those things that we know can be of risk? We have also NIST Cybersecurity Framework, the CSF. So that'd be the NIST CSF. And that's a NIST security framework consisting of resources to implement risk management for a private sector organization. Often we're talking about public, this is talking about private. The CSA Cloud Controls Matrix, the CCM, that's a security framework that's consisting of recommended security controls for each party in a cloud computing environment. Then we also have the CSA Enterprise Architecture, the EA reference guide, and that's a CSA security framework used to align organizational goals with recommended cloud infrastructure security controls. We also have the ISO IEC standards and frameworks. So the ISO and the IEC, they're both the international organizations, and they often collaborate on standards development to ensure the consistency in global economy. You don't want competing standards out there. So a co-developed ISO and IEC standard is referred to as an ISO/IEC standard, and there's lots of those that exist. There's the ISO IEC 27001. That's a security standard and framework for the implementation of an information management security system, an ISMS. Again, we're going to be into a lot of definitions a lot of acronyms here and a lot of things that you're going to have to just memorize. But these are for public and private sector organizations. The one right after that is ISO IEC 27002, and that's a security standard and framework used to guide information security control implementation within an ISMS for public and private sector organizations. Then we've got 27701, and that's a security standard and framework for the implementation of a privacy information management system, a PIMS, for public and private sector organizations. We've got ISO IEC 31000, and that's a security standard and framework used to implement risk management. So there's a lot of these things. You're just going to have to memorize them. And then we get into system and organization control reports. So the organization we talked about before, AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they've developed a system and organization controls reports to ensure that a service entity's secure handling of a user entity's financial information. So you got two parties involved in this. You've got the user entity, which is the customer essentially. Then you've got the service entity, the one that's providing the service. An example of this is going to be, let's say, I'm a company. I could be the state of Hawaii even. So let's say I'm the state of Hawaii. I'm a user entity in this relationship. And then the other end is going to be, let's say, a payroll company that does all of her payroll. So the payroll is going to be the service entity in this case. So we need to make sure sometimes for the user entity, the state of Hawaii, for our compliance needs, we need to be able to request audits and whatnot on the service entity. So we have different things here to handle that. So the AICPA's SOC reports are included in the AICPA auditing standard known as the Statement on Standards for Attestation Engagements number 18. Again, a massive word salad, acronym salad here, but that's the SSAE 18. And there's 3 SOC options that exist here. However, only SOC 2 audits a service entity's security controls for compliance and operations. So there's 2 SOC 2 report types that exist. There's SOC 2 Type 1, and that's going to be a point-in-time audit of the service entity's security controls. And then you've got the SOC 2 Type 2. That's going to be a periodic, usually annual audit of a security of the service entity's security controls. So one is just a fixed, one time, and then the other one is a periodic one. So SOC 2 Type 1 results are intended to improve security control effectiveness whenever a subsequent SSA SOC Type 2 audit is conducted. So it has a note about SOC 1, SOC 3, SOC 1, SOC 3 are the other 2 SOC options. Only a user entity can request a SOC 1 or SOC 2, but anyone from the general public, like you and me, we can request a SOC 3. And SOC 1 focuses on the service entity's financial reporting. SOC 3 is a high-level report on the service entity's SOC 2 results. So that is the word salad, the acronym salad that we have for this week. I do apologize, but there's a lot of stuff here you just have to go through over and over and over to get used to it. To be honest, you won't probably deal with a lot of these, but particularly if you're working in cybersecurity in the defense or anywhere in government, you'll be hearing a lot about NIST. NIST is everywhere, so that's a definite one. ISA you'll hear a lot about. If you're working in financials, AICPA is another one, but just get familiar with all these different framework organizations that are out there, and also learn what these different frameworks are. Like the CSC, the RMF, the CSF, the CCM, and the EA. Know about those. It's going to be important, and then learn about your ISO IEC standards and frameworks, because these things will be tested, as will the AICPA's the SOC 2 Type 1, Type 2. So there may be a lot of memorization involved here, but just go through it often enough that you get familiar with it and try to understand it. Use your chat GPT, or your Gemini is the preferred one. Use Gemini to ask for examples of what user entities are or service entities are, to try to get it into your head. If you can visualize what these are, it's better. So anyway, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out, and I will see you in the next video. Aloha.